I'm not a therapist. I'm a marketer, and I've worked in marketing for over 20 years, and I've worked in a number of different industries. But in that last 10 years, I've been on quite a journey. So 10 years ago, my husband and I decided we wanted to start a family. And we discovered quite quickly that that was going to be difficult for us. And it led us down a path of years and years and years of failed IVF and gynecological surgery. And ultimately, that journey has been unsuccessful. We're never going to have a family. And that led me to a very low place. I really lost my self-esteem. I lost my sense of purpose. I'd actually stepped out of my career in London to try and focus on getting myself in a place where I would be able to have a family physically. So I'd lost I felt like I'd lost my career, I'd lost my purpose, I'd lost my confidence, and I just felt like a total failure, and I couldn't see a path forward. And so I turned to you for help. I had been working with complementary therapists for the IVF anyway. I'd been working with acupuncturists and various other people, nutritionists. But when I realised that my family wasn't going to materialise, I put on quite a lot of weight. So I started working with a trainer and a nutritionist. I went on a detox retreat, and I worked with a very talented counsellor as well. And I found a way back to myself. And I realised that I can have a new path. And, you know, Linda mentioned earlier about COVID being a big life reset for people. And this was mine, you know, and I needed to find a path through that. So I've worked with a lot of therapists as a client, but in that time, I also realized that a lot of therapists were telling me that they needed more clients and that they struggle with marketing and that they hate marketing and they don't like doing marketing. And I thought, hey, there's an opportunity for me to help here because I have the background knowledge, and I'm really passionate about what you do, and I know that you can make a massive difference in the world. And if I can help you get more clients, then I can make a difference in the world as well. So that's why I've started this business. Now, I did intend to actually launch my business next year when I'm going to be on the road traveling, which is what my husband and I have decided to do with our time. I'm in the process of renovating a camper van at the moment to go traveling for a few years. But with COVID, one of my other businesses became impossible to run. So I brought this forward, and I actually launched this business only in September. But in that time, I have launched a Facebook group, which you're all welcome to join. I'll give you details later, which now has since I launched on the 11th of September, I'm almost at 500 members now. And it's a Facebook group for health and wellness practitioners and therapists and coaches to get free marketing resources and tips and help as well. So there will be next year a course coming, which I'm working on, but for the moment there's the Facebook group, which will remain free, and you're all welcome to join that. But what we're going to talk about today, as we've already touched on, is in brief, is how to ethically market your business, and you're getting your roadmap to being fully booked. And it's quite interesting listening to what you were just saying about marketing, because marketing has a really bad reputation. But when it's done right, it's not a bad thing. And what you have to remember is you can't help anybody if they don't know you exist. So marketing is you're actually doing people a service when you market yourself correctly, because if they don't know you exist, you can't help them. So you have to be in a position, you have to approach it from a position that marketing is actually part of you offering your service. It's about you helping clients. And it goes wrong when it feels sleazy and salesy and horrible when you haven't got the foundations right, which I'll talk about in a minute. And when you're approaching it from an angle of, I'm selling now. And if you approach it from that angle, it's always going to feel awful. And you should never offer your product to anybody that doesn't need it. And if you're genuinely offering your product, your service to someone that needs it, you're not doing them a disservice at all. You are doing them a favor by telling them that you can help them. You know, if somebody asked you, if somebody said that they were re-roofing their house, but they needed a ladder and you had a ladder, you would offer your ladder, right? It's the same with your services. You need to tell people that need you what you do. And that is why marketing is ethical. I genuinely believe that marketing is ethical. It's only not ethical if it's done badly or wrong. But fundamentally, marketing is an ethical practice. So when I'm talking to therapists, I often hear a few things come up. I hear marketing is just so overwhelming. I have no idea where to start. Or I've got a Facebook page because everyone told me I needed one. Like Claire said earlier, you know, everyone told me I need to be on social media. So I've got this page and I post every now and again, but nothing ever seems to happen. Or I've got a website, but nobody ever calls me and nobody ever seems to look at it. Or I don't know how many people look at it. Or when I'm speaking to potential clients, they just don't seem to understand what I'm telling them. They don't seem to get how I can help them. Or they, you know, therapists just hate marketing because it just seems to not be congruent with what they're about. And that's wrong. As I said earlier, marketing is about helping people, and it's just about letting people know that you can help them. So these sort of mental mind blocks are a real problem, and lack of understanding around how marketing works is also a real problem, because marketing can get really frustrating and it can cause some people to give up on their business altogether. I've heard people just resign themselves to the fact that they'll never make enough money, and they do it on the side as almost like a hobby, really. Or they do a lot of work, but none of it's paid, and they have to go and get a job to pay the bills. Or they just give up completely after struggling for years. And that's a real tragedy, because it's tragic for you because you're not getting to share your gift, but it's also tragic for all the people that you can help because they're never going to get your help. So the good news is it doesn't have to be like that. There is a simple system you can follow to get more clients without feeling overwhelmed or overworked or like a sleazy salesman. But most people have those feelings because their marketing plan is back to front or upside down, or just starting in the wrong place. And what I mean by that, and I'm just going to share with you. Oh, sorry. Could you make it possible for me to share a screen? Sorry. Thank you. Let me just share with you this. So let me know you can see. Oh, hang on. I push the share button. That would help, wouldn't it? Right. So let me know you can see my screen. Yeah, great. So this is a roadmap that I've developed for my clients to take them through the journey to getting fully booked. And it's all done in an ethical way. And the reason I said people get their marketing upside down or back to front is that I normally see most people start this journey at number 3, which is the website, or number 6, which is social media, or number 7, which is networking. That's normally where people start. People decide to start their practice and they think, I've got to go and do some marketing. I better go to a networking event, or I better get a Facebook page, or I better get a website. And like Claire said earlier, that's the wrong place to start. You have to start at the beginning. Why are you doing these activities? Step number 1, and these are my sort of 5 tips really to marketing, to starting to market your practice early. Step number 1 is get really clear on what it is you want. Why are you wanting to do any marketing? What is it that you want to do? How much money do you want to make? And remember, money is not evil. You have to make money for it to be a viable business, and you have to support yourself in order to be able to support your clients. So how much money do you want to make? What sort of packages are you going to offer? And when we're talking about packages, I don't mean it's a session of 3 or it's a session of 6 or it's a session of 10. I'm talking about how many sessions the people going to need to achieve an outcome that they actually need from you. And sometimes that's a bit of how long is a piece of string, but depending on what it is you do, you can often define things into packages that make sense. When you offer your client, would you like 3 sessions or 6 sessions? They have no idea, right? That's a really hard decision for them to make. They'll probably pick 3 because it's cheaper. So what you actually need to do is create a package that you know is going to be able to help them based on their problems, and you can tier that package as well. Once you know your packages, you can work out how many clients you need per week, per month, per year. And then all that information will define the scope of your marketing plan. Because if you only need 2 clients a week, that's very different to needing 30 clients a week. And the amount of marketing that you do is going to correspond to that. Sorry, I keep looking to the right because I've got quite a big screen. Your faces are all the way over there. So sorry for not looking straight at the camera. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is you've got to spend time getting to know your clients. You've got to know your client almost better than them know themselves. You've got to really get under their skin, because when you're talking to your clients, you need to talk to your clients about them, not about you. It's a sad truth that we're all self-interested in this world. You know, the people we care about is us. So what we want to know is how you're going to help them with their problem. So you need to be talking about their problems and your solution to their problems, not the modality that you specialize in specifically. So for this, I use the analogy of, if you're sitting at an airport going on holiday and you're scared of flying, and you're sat in between 2 people, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, I really don't want to get this flight. I'm really scared. I don't want to get this flight. And you think you're going to strike up a conversation, when you could go to an airport and strike up a conversation, that is. And you turn to the left and you say, oh, you know, hello, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? And they say, I'm a hypnotherapist. And you say, all right, okay, that's interesting, fine. And then you turn to the person on your right and you start chatting to them, and they say, I help cure people with phobias of flying. Who are you going to want to talk to? You're going to want to talk to the person on your right, because they've offered you a solution to your problem, even though they're probably both hypnotherapists. And that's why you've got to really understand your client, because you need to know what it is that's important to them. And when you get that right, everything else falls into place, because you'll know what to say on your website, you'll know what to say at networking, you'll know what to say on social media. Often people struggle with social media content creation, and that's because they're not thinking about what the client needs. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is your website. Now, as a general rule, I normally say steps 1 to 5 on this roadmap are non-negotiable for most people, and that will be true for 90% of people, 80% of people. More or less all of you will need a website. The reason you need a website, rather than relying on something like a Facebook page, which is free, is that the website is under your control. Social media is great, but it's owned by somebody else. They can decide arbitrarily to turn it off, to limit who sees it, all these kinds of things. And actually that's already happened with Facebook pages. When Facebook pages first started, most people saw what you put. These days now, unless you're going to pay to advertise your page, very few people will get exposure to your page. So your website is your key number 1 marketing hub. It's live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's your online representative. And you'll probably find, even if you meet people in person, they will still go and Google you and look at your website. Because if you haven't got a website, do you really exist? Who are you? So they will go and look at your website, and that is such a key part. Steps 4 and 5 are about lead magnets and email marketing. And this is where people start to roll their eyes and go, oh God, here we go, marketing stuff, right? But the reason these are important, and a lead magnet is a downloadable freebie, right? So this is talking about funnels. Sorry, I know we hate funnels, but the reason funnels are important, and the reason step 4 and 5 are so important, is because you need to be spending your time helping clients, not selling. Not doing free consults, not doing discovery calls, not spending hour-long chats about whether or not this is going to work for you. You need to get all of that automated, or as much of that as possible. And for most modalities, it's possible to automate the whole thing, and they can just go through to booking you. Sometimes you might need to add a small call onto the end of that. But if you can reduce the number of calls that you do to a handful of people that are going to book you, rather than everybody that ever has a passing interest in what you do, you can then focus on spending your time helping more clients. And a lead magnet is a downloadable freebie, and an email marketing is a simple step follow-up process that can help establish you as an expert, answer questions, show that you know what you're talking about, establish trust. And it will do all of those things that a discovery call can do for you. It can do almost everything for you, and it will all be automated. It will all run in the background. So the people that you speak to will be people that actually want to book you, and you can help more people that way, because you won't be wasting time with people that you can't help. And that's often why marketing feels salesy, because you're spending your time on your discovery calls with people who were never going to book you, who weren't the right fit for your service. Then you move on to everything else. So tip number 5 is only look at social media, networking, online marketing, any other form of marketing once you've got those 5 steps right. And the reason for that is that some of you won't need to do social media, some of you won't need to do marketing, some of you won't need to do online marketing, some of you will need to do a lot of all three, some of you will need to do a little bit of all three. It all comes back to step number one. What is it you're trying to achieve? And step number two, who is it you're going to talk to? And you pick the marketing channels that are most appropriate based on your personal strategy. And then you work through the roadmap and you close the sale and you love your customer and all that sort of stuff at the end. But if you get step number 1 through to 5 right, and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. If you get that right, marketing becomes easy and it's not salesy, because all you're doing is you're presenting your service to people who need you. And that's what ethical marketing is about. It's not about trying to convert next door Dora into becoming a client. That is salesy. That's horrible. Nobody wants that. You don't want that, and she doesn't want that. It's about finding the people that need you and talking directly to them. Now, I'm very aware that I've probably talked for a good 10 minutes there, so I am going to wrap up and let questions. But if you do want to contact me, these are my contact details, and on there you'll see the link for the free Facebook group. You're very welcome to join that group. Feel free to screenshot this page or jot it down in front of you. You're very welcome to join the group. Every week we do a free 20-minute training session. Tomorrow's session, it's on a Wednesday, so tomorrow's session is actually about getting ready for January. And actually on Thursday, we've also got a little mini networking event going on as well, where we're talking about our plans for 2021. So you're very welcome to join the group. And I just want to wrap up by saying thank you to Claire and to Linda for having me speak today and for listening. And yeah, I'd love to know if you've got any questions.
Thank you, Karen. Karen, I could have listened to that all day long. It said everything that, it's all those little bits of tips that I've heard over the years all put together in the same place. I nodded so hard my head nearly fell off when you was talking about not using social media as a replacement for a website, because as you know, anyone who's worked with me will know I've been banging on about that for years.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's a key mistake a lot of people make.
Yeah. So I'm opening up now. Everybody can unmute for questions and discussion about Karen's talk. Thank you, Karen. That was really good.
No problem.
I enjoyed it.
This is a comment more than a question, but I think, like Claire, I've heard a lot of people say the things that you've just said, but what you've added to it is think of a word, gravitas. So so there are quite a lot of people in the marketing field who give you a kind of pat formula for this is how it should work, and they use the words you're using and perhaps even some of the formula that you're using, but what you are saying is it needs to be tailored to your needs, and you need to think through very carefully what you're doing it for. So I would listen to what you have to say, whereas I find some other people who say the same thing and I just turn off. So I just feed that back to you, because I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because you're using similar techniques to some people, but it's just how they understand it and how they would get you to use the techniques you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's right. You know, I've seen a lot. When I first thought about launching this business, I obviously did some research and looked at some of my competitors. There are lots out there actually, and I'm discovering more and more every day. But it does frustrate me. They all offer a formula, and I think that's because people like them. Generally, people want an easy fix, and a formula is an easy fix. But marketing, and I think the reason I'm using a lot of the similar concepts is because marketing is marketing. There's only so much you can say about marketing. But what so many people miss is that fundamental step number 1 and step number 2, really thinking through what it is you are trying to achieve with your business, and then thinking about it from the customer's point of view, putting the two together and creating the strategy. you absolutely can't create a strategy unless you do those step number 1 and 2. And I was so pleased to hear Claire right at the beginning say, people come to me and say, I want a website. And the first question was, why? That's absolutely the first question. That's the question you should ask yourself before you do anything in marketing. Why? Why am I doing this? What am I trying to achieve? And who is this for? They're 2 fundamental questions, and you absolutely have to take that into account when you're making your marketing plan, because there isn't a one size fits all marketing plan, because if there was, there'd be one marketing coach and they'd have written the marketing plan for every product and every service ever in the world, and that would be what you do. And marketing isn't that simple, and I think there's a lot of miscommunication about what marketing is and how easy it is. It is easy if you get those fundamentals right, and most people skip them. And that's why marketing feels salesy and hard work and just icky. So thank you for that, Linda.
Done it again.
Can I no.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Claire.
I was only asking if anyone else had anything.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I understand the system. It took me years to understand, and because I was, like many people, avoiding the funnel, the lead magnet, and things like that. But at the end, I understand why I have to do that. Just like you said, if you publicize the freebie and the package and things like that, you don't have to be a salesperson, right? Because the computer is doing for you. So the marketing is doing it for you. I understood right at the beginning that a website is an electronic business card, and not find a client place. However, transforming my website for leads page and all those landing things, all those names, and I'm still learning about that, can bring some clients. My issue fundamentally is how to create a freebie that will be interesting for people to say, oh, I like this, and I'm going to work with Anna. Because many times I download freebies, I have a look, and I say, I don't like this. It's like, I know that we can't please everyone, but it's like, I'm not doing this kind of thing, because if I don't like it, how people will like. So how do I create a freebie to call people to me?
Well, that all comes back to step number 2. And that's, again, why people get it wrong, because they don't do, I'll put the roadmap back up so you can just see what I'm talking about quickly while this makes sense. So it'll make a bit more sense for you. So hopefully you can see that. So step number 4 is the lead magnet, but you can only do the lead magnet if you've done steps 1, 2, and 3. And step 2 is fundamentally where you're going to be making those decisions. Who is your audience? What is your message? What is their problems? How do you solve those? How can you add value to them? That's all the questions you need to ask yourself before you get to step number 4. But a lot of people jump in at step number 4. You know, I said at the beginning, I see most people start on this map, either 3, 6, or 7. For some people, you can't really start on 4 unless you've got your website. But they do the website and then they look at their freebie. But I've looked at a lot of freebies, and they're either, and I'm generalizing here, I've seen people offer a meditation, for example, because they've decided that people need, what people need is to relax. That's probably true, but your client is thinking, I need to, okay, so let me give you an actual concrete example, because I'm really bad at making up examples on the fly. So I'll give you a concrete example.
Okay.
So I worked with a hypnotherapist recently who works with resolving addiction. And her freebie was a meditation to help you relax. Now, undoubtedly, that is useful. But if you're trying to quit smoking, there's a disconnect, because you're not thinking, I need to relax. You're just thinking, I don't want to put on weight, because if I stop smoking, I might start eating more, or I don't know what I'm going to do with my fingers, or how am I going to socialize, because all my friends will be outside the pub when we could go to pubs. All my friends will be outside smoking and I'll be inside on my own, or how do I stand outside around the smokers without wanting to smoke? That's what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about, I want to, go to my mellow place and meditate. So I'm sure it was a great freebie, and as part of a package of working on techniques to help you relax so that you don't perhaps need to smoke, great. But what a better freebie for that would be something short and sweet, like 6 things to do with your hands instead of smoking.
Okay.
For example, that's a much better freebie, because that speaks immediately to the client's problem, and they read it. They probably won't do any of them. That's just what we do. We get information, and we think by owning the information, we naturally will be better. That's not what we do. But they'll get your freebie and they'll think, oh, okay, I could do that. Okay, that works. And then they'll go into your email system. So you'll be following up on that. How are you getting on implementing the 6 techniques? Have you had any success yet? Then you could perhaps send them something else, 6 ways to, see, now I'm making it up on the spot, which is where I fail. 6 things you can do to avoid putting on weight, or ways to distract yourself when you want a cigarette when you're working, or ways to, whatever it is. You can send them these little snippets of information that get them to start to think of you as an expert in the field of quitting smoking, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what your freebies need to do. And that's why step number 2 on that roadmap is so fundamental. You have to understand what your client's thinking about. I'm sure what you do is great, and you could talk about what you do and your modality for hours, but your client's not interested in that. Your client is only interested in themselves. And that's where a lot of the disconnect comes, with websites and with lead magnets and with social media. You'll be talking about reflexology or energy healing, or whatever it is, and you won't be talking about resolving back pain, quitting smoking, feeling happier in life, feeling more fulfilled in life, whatever it is you do. And that's what your client is focused on. So your lead magnet is all about step number 2, understanding your customer. And it could be that you have multiple customers, and that's fine. Your website can deal with multiple different issues, but start with one, get that right first. And you may need to create different freebies for different people. And again, it all comes back to step number 2, understanding your customer and getting that research right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So it could be, for example, 3 months giving one freebie about the finger things leading to the course, for example, or the one-to-one coaching. 3 months publicizing or sharing the freebie about the weight, and then going for the same course and things like that. So trying to...
Yeah, you would need to work out which one resonated. So if, let's say you were focusing on smoking, quitting smoking for sake of argument, because it's a relatively easy concept. It could be that you've got ideas of what to do with your hands instead of smoking, or ways to avoid putting on weight, or things to do to occupy your time, or alternative ways to relax, for example. That could be your 3 things, and you're not quite sure which one of those is going to resonate. Step number 2 is where you would work out which of those is going to be a pull, because one of those is going to work for 80% of your audience. None of those is going to work for everybody, but you're always looking for the one that's going to work the best. But you can also promote other things, on your social media channels. For example, you can have today's tip for occupying your hands is, and as a one-off, and you could use those to pepper your social media as well as have your download, your freebie. And again, if you really wanted to test them, you could A/B split them, but that's getting complicated. If you do your research right, you'll get one that works enough. You can always refine later. If you write a social media post about ways to avoid putting on weight, and it gets way more interest than your one about occupying your hands ever has, switch your freebie. That's fine. But it all comes back to step number 2, and that's why people struggle, because they don't spend enough time on step number 2.
Yeah, it's like I'm taking months just to create the first steps.
Yeah.
because it's hard work, and then the rest, I think it will be like flowing all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as I said, I launched this business in September. I had the idea.
Sorry, I have a call, and it's my daughter's doctor. Sorry, I have to go. Just a little.
Yes, so just to finish that, I started this business in September. I launched the Facebook group in September, but I had the idea in March, and I basically spent 6 months really thinking through steps 1 and 2. I basically spent 6 months on step 1 and 2. I was fortunate. I had the luxury of the time to be able to do that because I had other alternatives. But you have to get that fundamental step 1 and 2 right before you go anywhere, and then everything else flows. Everything else follows just from that. It becomes much easier to make decisions, much quicker to make decisions, and much quicker to implement everything once you've got that right.
Thanks, Karen. I have a question.
Okay.
One of the things in clients, when I speak to them, that they really struggle with, and it has a big knock-on effect with marketing, particularly in the steps that you're putting out, is that their weak area, let's say, their strengths is being a therapist or their strength is being a coach, their weakness is in content writing or content creating. They don't know how to put into words what it is. Is that something you assist with as well?
Not specifically. I'm not a copywriter, but there are lots of people out there that can do that for you. But what you have to, I also see people make the mistake of thinking, I can't do this, I'll outsource it. And they just get someone in to write all their content for them. That is a big mistake. You absolutely have to. It doesn't matter if you're not William Shakespeare. Just get the ideas down on paper and give those to your copywriter to turn into something better in inverted commas. If you're not great at writing, that's fine. It could be that you don't necessarily need to do a lot of writing. Again, it all depends on what it is you're trying to do. A lot of people go on social media because they're told to go on social media, and social media involves writing. But actually, the great thing about social media is actually we're moving away from the written word. Video is what social media is about, actually, a lot of the time. So you could perhaps start doing Facebook Lives, or you could start doing mini videos instead. If you're not great at writing, talk it instead. Speak it, that's better English. Speak it instead. There's lots of ways to get around it. And again, depending on what you're trying to achieve, you may not even need to be on social media. Depending on what you're offering and who. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes, depending on what you do, you're better off marketing to people that can refer you work instead of marketing directly to your client. So again, depending on what you're trying to do and who you're trying to reach with your marketing will depend on what it is you do. But you can outsource. You can outsource all of it. You could outsource your website, but you have to know what it is you need your website to do and what it is largely you want it to say. You can outsource writing. You can outsource social media. You can outsource all of it pretty much. But you have to have made those strategic decisions yourself first to know that it's right. Otherwise, you're just flushing money down the loo, because nobody knows your business as well as you do. So if you don't brief properly, you'll be wasting your money. I hope that makes sense. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, great.
I have another one.
Okay.
How do you measure the efforts that you're putting in? So I know you said you'll have to find out which of your freebies is the one that resonated. What methods do you use to measure that? Well,
that's quite a broad answer. It will depend what it is you're trying to measure. But the great thing about online marketing, and I started marketing, I remember my first marketing job ever. I spent all day writing envelopes, and then I sent some faxes. How times have changed. But when you were doing it on paper, it was quite hard to measure and track. The great thing about online marketing, if you do go down the online marketing route, is absolutely everything has got a paper trail, and you can track everything. You can track, Google Analytics is great for your website. And you can track everything that's happening on your website via Google Analytics, and that's completely free.
Make it easier now as well.
Sorry?
made it easier now as well. Google have finally started to wake up to the fact that people don't understand what they talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're making it easier. But again, as long as you know what you want to know, you could get someone to set that up for you and then just look at the report. So Google Analytics is fantastic for your website. You can track other links through things like Bitly and stuff like that. You can track what's going on. You'll be able to know how many people are downloading stuff because it will feed into your email system. It will feed into notifications you've got about who's downloaded what. Basically, everything online is trackable and measurable. Don't measure everything because you'll drive yourself crazy. Again, based on what you're trying to achieve, work with a coach to identify the key metrics that you need to be tracing. But everything is measurable online. So it depends on what it is you're tracking. Social media, obviously, Facebook give you a lot of different statistics. LinkedIn gives you a lot of different statistics. Most of them will give you statistics on what it is you're doing. So everything is trackable.
Thank you.
No problem. Sorry, I could talk about all this stuff for hours.
I'm sorry, I had to go and cut you in the middle.
That's okay.
Karen, I've got a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
As I said earlier, most of my stuff has come through kind of word of mouth and social media, and I'm just tentatively stepping a toe into creating a freebie. That's done and dusted. I've set up a MailChimp account for the email system, and that was the hugest block in the world ever for me. I don't know why it was. I paid somebody's son to start it off for me, and then once that had been started, I now have 10 people on my mailing list. So my question is, what next?
With what next?
Yeah.
Is
massive question.
Yeah, it's almost the wrong question.
Right, okay.
That's why I paused. I thought, how do I say this? So it's almost the wrong question. The question you want to ask yourself is actually the question, not even the question you want to ask yourself. If you ever ask what next, it's because you've got a lack of clarity with where you're going with your business.
Right.
So actually, where next is back. Go backwards. Go back to step number one and get that clarity. Because if you get your clarity on what it is you're trying to achieve with your business, you will then get a clearer picture of what you're doing with your marketing and what next will flow. If you ever get to the stage of, I don't know what to do next, that's because you've not thought through the plan enough at the beginning. So you always need to go backwards. And I apply that, and it could be that you've done it once and you get to a stage where you do think, what's next? At that stage, you always go back to step number one. Your business is going to be constantly evolving, and your marketing is going to be constantly evolving, and your products and services are going to be constantly evolving. So it's going to change over and over. So what I would advise, if you ever get to a stage where you just think, I don't know what to do next, don't take advice from anyone that ever tells you what the answer is. Because they don't know. They're just trying to tell you what they know. The only person that can answer what next for you is somebody that can sit down with you and talk about where it is you're going with your business in detail.
Right.
So go backwards, make sure you are clear, then come back to me and we can have a chat. I do offer 2-hour strategy sessions where we sit down and we go through your business based on where you are, and we can go through and work out exactly the answer to that question, what's next. But you can never just say, because you've done your email list, your next step is social media. That's always the wrong answer. So if you ever get advice like that, instantly ignore it and go back to step number one, because what next is personalized to you based on your business needs and what it is you're going to do.
Right, thank you.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Great.
It does, isn't it? People think of their business journey as a linear thing, as a straight line. Now, I'm on a path, and at the end is all my clients that are going to pay me lots of money, but it's not, because your path is circular. So, it'll go, I'm on this path at the moment, and it comes around full circle, and then I think of something else I want to offer or something else I want to do, and you go around that circle again. And I think that's the mistake that people make, is that they think, I've got to do this, like the mistake people made with their websites, and they come to me, I've got to do this, tick it off the job list and leave it. And it doesn't. You have to keep working on it and changing it, because it is your business and it's part of all of it.
Mm.
So yeah, I completely agree with that. You know, if you're not sure, going back round again to the beginning, because it's probably something different that you're trying to achieve this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fascinating. I love it.
I love it too. I could literally go on for hours, but
Does anybody else have any thoughts or feedback or questions?
I think if I think about what a lot of the therapists say when we have talked about marketing is, and I know I certainly struggled with this, certainly when I first started out, is getting clear on what you want from your business is a really difficult question to answer. And it's almost like you need another series of questions around part one of your chart, Karen, and how you want to get there. What the do I know? I don't know how I want to get there, because I don't. So I can hear myself saying I need a whole ton of other questions to answer just on section one. I understand it takes a time and you need to work that through. And I'm sure there isn't a step-by-step guide, because it would be different for anybody, dependent on the nature of their business. But when I first started out, I didn't know what I wanted. I'm not 100% sure I do now. What I want now is certainly changed. It's evolved several times over the years. But I think that's, you really need some clarity around how you would do that. And I've heard people say, like, point to know your clients, go through this exercise and determine what your ideal client is. And I think, well, I have about 30 ideal clients. Because they could come to me for any number of reasons, and I can't define what they are. I mean, there are other parameters I can define. When I think what I did now when I started my business was I chucked mud at a wall. And some of it stuck, some of it ricocheted and hit me in the face, some of it disappeared completely over the wall. And it now works, but I don't really know why. So my marketing has been hit and miss all the way through, because I've never done those initial 2 steps. But when I first started, I'm not sure I could have done, because I didn't know.
No, and that's quite common, and it's not exclusive to therapists either. a lot of small business owners just want to start a business and want it to make them their income. But there are certain things you can define, and that's where I would advise working with a coach to get through those steps. And then again, as I said, the strategy session, we could do that. That's actually one of my challenges, because where I want to take this business is, obviously I have the free Facebook group and that's going to remain free, and I want that to be a valuable resource, but I also want to sell courses and do coaching further down the line, and making the course make sense. I could do a course on social media, no problem, but again, without steps 1 and 2, that's hard. So my challenge, actually, I intended to launch my course in January. When I first sat down in March, my intention was to launch a course in January, and I've postponed that because I am still working out how I can put steps 1 and 2 together in a way that makes sense for a group. I can do it for an individual, no problem, but making it make sense for a group is very difficult, and it is an area where you need help. So if you are on step 1 and 2, or even if you're on step 6 but you've not done step 1 and 2, then that's where I would advise working with someone like myself, or maybe even Claire. I'm not sure which Claire offers, but work with somebody who can help you get clarity on what it is you want for your business, because it's easier than you think to get clarity, but it's really hard to do on your own.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I've still struggled with that. And if I sat down and thought about my therapy business, and I'm not at the moment, I'm thinking about another business, I've thought about my therapy business, I mean, I would still struggle now, even though I've been doing it quite a number of years now to get that defined, what my ideal client is. There's one or two very simple. If I think what my ideal client is, it would be somebody who wants to deal with their life in a different way.
Yeah. And again,
quite general. It's not specific.
Yeah, and that again, step number 2, it could be that you will help lots of different people. But when you're thinking, I see a lot of people go down the route of create your ideal avatar, you know, your ideal client, and it'll be, you know, she's a female in her 30s who wears glasses and loves reading and plays golf at the weekends and whatever. That's all complete nonsense.
Yes.
Okay, kind of useful to have a visual mental picture, but actually when we're talking about who's your client, we're talking about what problems have they got. What is their problem? And that, if you know the problems, you'll be able to group them down into much smaller people. And you can, it's absolutely fine to help people, or not people with more than one problem, different groups of people with different problems. But start your business with one. Pick one. Because people want to see specialists. You can group them together. So that hypnotherapist I was talking about, she works with addictions generally. She doesn't just deal with smoking. She deals with smoking, drugs, alcohol, everything. And her website needs to show her that. But because it's under the umbrella of addiction, that makes sense. What I have seen people do in the past with their website is they say, I do energy healing, and I'm a hypnotherapist, and I do reflexology or something, I don't know, something along those lines. It's a combination of the 3. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I just want somebody to help solve my back problem. And I don't understand.
I don't know what those things are. I don't know how.
I don't know what those things are. I don't know what they're going to do. I haven't got time to sit here and read the 15-page document that you've put together that explains to me how reflexology is going to help me with back problems. I just want to know that you solved my back problem. So you could offer multiple modalities that all solve the same problem. That's fine. Or it could be that you deal with multiple problems and you want to think about the problems that you help people solve. What is it they say when they call you up? Why do they ring you? And they ring you and they say, I think I need to talk to you because I feel X, or because I'm struggling with problem Y. And that's what we're talking about with your ideal customer. If you can get to the root of their problems, you also need to go deeper into that. Having back pain is not a reason to go and see a physiotherapist. A lot of people have back pain, nobody ever gets help. It's what problems, not everybody gets help, obviously some people do. What makes them go and see help is because they can't play with their grandkids anymore, because they can't bend over, etc., etc. Get to the emotional problem, and that's what your marketing will hook into, but your ideal client will come back to the large problem. And again, even with addiction, people actually that quit smoking actually quite enjoy smoking a lot of the time, but what they're worried about is the fact that they've just been given a health diagnosis of cancer or something along those lines, or perhaps they have just had grandchildren and they want to be around for a bit longer so they can play with them, or something along those lines. That's why they're seeking help. The problem is that they're smoking. It doesn't matter that they're male, female, 30, 60, 80, 90, 100, whatever it is. So go back to what problems it is you solve for your clients, and that will help you start to refine your message. But again, there's a whole load of work that we can do around that area. Each of these steps on the roadmap, it all looks very simple and neat because that is the path, but there's a lot of work to be done at each step. But actually the more work you do at 1 and 2, the easier the rest of the roadmap becomes. The rest of it becomes a lot simpler.
Yeah, I'm currently receiving coaching at the moment with a lady called Julia Chanteray, and one of the things that she's asked me to do is do like a customer avatar. But what I liked about it was that it was a bit deeper than the general, you know, how old are they and all that stuff. And two of the things that she asked us to do, which I hadn't seen before in anything else, was to ask us to think about our favourite clients that we have now or have had in the past, and look at their external pressures that they have on them. So if they got bigger bills to pay, if they got family, that sort of thing, and also their internal desires. So think about that favourite client and what's the thing inside that drives them, what is their internal desire, and that really helps you get into their psyche a bit to understand then how you can help them, and then what you talk about.
Exactly.
I literally just did that last week, so it's new to me as well, that. And I thought that was really interesting because I hadn't thought
psychographics
in that way before.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You start with the overarching problem, and then you've got to dig deeper, because there are lots of people out there with back pain. There's lots of people out there suffering with trauma. There's lots of people with depression. There's lots of people, you know, that want to quit smoking, but never do anything about it. It's only when they get to a certain place that they will get that help. And knowing what that place is what will help you with your messaging. And that's what you need to talk about. You know, if you help people with back pain, you want to be talking about, do you want to be able to crawl around on the floor with your grandkids, not come for a massage, you know? And that's where, and people get hung up on the modality rather than the problem, and they don't go deep enough on the problem. So yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. Really get to the point where you, and that's what I said at the beginning, get to know your customer better than they know themselves. know them, really know them. And you can, and if you work with multiple different types of problems, that's fine. Start with one. Either pick the one that's going to be most profitable for you based on your packages, or start with the one that meant you became a therapist in the first place. It could be the problem that you had, or it could be the one that you're just most passionate about helping people solve. Start there and get that right, because once you've done this process once, it's much easier to then do it numerous times for your different problems. And your website can reflect all of those, but not on one page. I also see everybody stick everything on one page and it doesn't speak to anybody. So you'll need multiple different speciality pages based on the problems that you solve. But you've also got to make sure it makes sense. You can't have one website where you're talking about helping people with caravan conversions and marketing, because it doesn't make sense to people. So you've got to look like a specialist in your area.
I like that bit where you said you can choose the one that's most profitable, or you can choose the one that made you want to be a therapist in the first place, because most of the people I'm working with at the moment, their number one driving factor isn't money. Yeah, they need it, but that's not why they're doing it.
Well, exactly. Yeah. You don't go. Sorry, Linda. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you really want to do something, if that is your passion, you've got to steer it to bring you money, but you won't keep doing it if you're not passionate about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. No one trains to be a therapist because they want to be a millionaire.
No.
You know, it's just not that kind of profession. You might be able to become a millionaire if you scale your business well, and that's your aspiration and that's what you want to do, fine, but that's not why you train. So, and if you can get that passion across, and you can talk about it in a way that makes sense for your client, that's the key. And that's why I said fundamentally at the beginning, marketing is an ethical activity. It's only when it's done badly it becomes not an ethical activity. So it's because we're exposed to so much bad marketing in the world, we end up thinking marketing is sales. And sales isn't a thing. Sales is sort of this horrible thing that nobody wants. You can use sales as part of your marketing strategy, but if it's done right, it won't even feel like sales. It will just feel like something completely natural, you know, as natural as, would you like my ladder to help you with your roof? You know, that was sales. You've sold them the ladder for free, but you know, you've offered a solution to the problem and you've let them have it. And that is marketing. So
I feel the same as Linda. Totally. And I think we might have the same problem, is we know a lot. We have a lot of knowledge and we can help a lot of people in different ways. So for example, I can work with people about repeating behavior, addiction, traumas, abundance, relationships, all using the same technique, you know? So it's like how I can separate. Okay, I chose abundance because I wrote a dissertation about it, and I went deep and everything. So I chose abundance, but I could be working with pregnant people, women with, like I did in 2008. I could. It's like it's always popping ideas in my head, and I'm like, okay, I have to focus on this. I have to focus on this, you know. So and I wonder if I should have one big course with everything, or separated in different small courses, depending on what people want. Because abundance, even abundance, people automatically think about money, but abundance, it's much more than that. So should I separate in small courses? Should I do a big one? And yeah, it's always that doubt, what should I do? You know, because no one will give me the answer, the right answer, even though if I research a lot, because we can't please everyone.
Yeah, and actually there is someone that can give you the right answer, and that person's you. You've just not been asked the right questions to find that answer.
Mm.
And that's why working with a coach is so important, because a coach will help you figure that out. You know the answer, you just don't know you know the answer. So, and you need somebody external to ask you the right questions to get you to the point where you know what the answer is. And then you can go and validate that with research and double check that you're right. But actually the answer is in you. You just need somebody to help you get that out.
And how funny is that we are coaches, we do that to our clients, and then to do that to ourselves, it's like,
That's exactly it, though. You can't coach yourself. Not if yeah. The reason being is you need that external person to ask, like Karen was saying, to ask the questions that make you think, because we're already too busy in our brain. And there was something else that come up when Karen was talking just now, for me, is something that I've heard when I've heard people talk about marketing in the past, and it's something that I tell people about a lot. And that's what you were saying about agreeing with Linda and having a lot of knowledge. Is that's the curse when it comes to marketing. The curse of marketing is the curse of knowledge, because you already know too much. You can't look at your business anymore through the eyes of someone who doesn't know what you do and how you do it. And that's why it's always useful to have somebody else that you ask, that will ask you those questions, and that doesn't do what you do, and therefore can see it like a potential client, where you can never do that now because you already know too much. As soon as you train, then you need like assistance in finding that you know what it is that they see from the things that you're putting out there. So getting feedback on anything that you're putting together, I think, is really important as well.
Yeah.
My struggle with coaches, because I already had before, was that they had their own agenda. A meeting 1 week, each week is a subject, and I was always like, when they were on the third session, I was still in the first one, because my rhythm is different than the coaches. So I always struggle with that. It's like
that's what people think coaching is, but that's not what it really is.
Maybe you need somebody who's less formulaic. I know that sounds like somebody's got a formula here, they're going to push you through whether you want to go or not, and that's not coaching.
Absolutely, Linda's right, that's not coaching. So with my coaching clients, it's about, and that strategy session, it's about where are you now and where do you need to be, and let's tailor this to you. And I offer a 2-hour session, and we can, and the idea is that you know exactly what your next steps are. If you want more sessions, fine, but I offer 1 2-hour session because it is a clarity session. It's about getting you, dealing with where you are, getting you on the right page and getting you to where you know what your next steps are. And that's what I see a lot of people. I'm going to create the formula. You know, my course will be formula based, but it's going to be a self-taught course, so you'll be able to go through at your own pace. But the coaching has to be personalized. It has to be looking at you. And as Claire said, outside the industry is better. I do see a lot of therapists move into marketing coaching for other therapists, and I'm sure they're fine. I'm not saying that they're not fine, but the beauty that I have is that I am your client. I have no idea how your therapy works. I have no idea about therapy generally. I just know about the results, and I only care about the results. And actually marrying that with my marketing expertise, that's great, because you don't need another therapist talking to you about therapy. You need someone that understands your client, talking to you about how you're going to talk to your client and what you're going to do with your client and with your business. So getting that outside perspective is beneficial, whether it's with me or whether it's with someone else. Dealing with somebody outside the industry is actually an advantage.
Yeah, because I couldn't have the same rhythm, I end up doing more of online courses, which I will do step by step at my rhythm.
Yeah.
You know, even if it took like 2 or 3 weeks, one session, one module, you know, because it will be more of me, but I didn't have the contact that I needed from the coach. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I end up going for courses than coaches, although it's my profession.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no.
Yeah, you've just not found the right coach.
Yeah, I think I'll always have a coach. I can't coach myself. There are some self-coaching methods that I use sometimes, but you just need someone to bounce off of sometimes. You just need somebody to, you know, almost play devil's advocate, or just look at something from a different point of view to anything you've thought about and say, have you thought about it like this? And then you go, and what I'm looking for in clients isn't where they have like this amazing, you know, the clouds open and the idea comes and it goes, like angels singing. They just go, huh. And I go, that's it. There it is.
Yeah.
That's all I'm looking for, is that bit where you go, I thought of it like that. And that's when your own thought process is then taking you down the path that you weren't able to go down on your own.
Exactly. It's a pattern interrupt. You need someone to break that thought pattern, because if you're not figuring it on yourself, if you can't figure it out on your own, you're never going to figure it out on your own, because your brain is strengthening the same loops all the time. So you need someone to break that pattern so you can then form a new thought process, and you can't do that on your own. You need the right coach to do that.
Yeah. Because like I was saying in the beginning, it takes me a long time, months, to create, for example, a freebie, a course, or something like that. So it's like, because of the experience that I had, it feels like that. Right, before having a coach, I'm going to create my freebie, I'm going to create my course, I'm going to have everything ready. But then I ask myself, why do I need a coach now if everything is ready?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like hiring a cleaner and cleaning the house before they arrive, because you don't want the cleaner to be dirty. What's the point? The point is that you need the coach because you need the help. So get the help and then do the work.
But then, if I have a coach to help me, it will give the coach will be faster than I am. So then I said, oh no, I'm not going to have a coach, because like you said in the beginning, like the client choose 3 sessions or 6 sessions or whatever, but the coach will not wait for me. He wants to do the sessions because he has other clients, and then I'm like, I paid money to have help and I didn't have the help that I needed.
That's the wrong coach.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And if I could just say, there's something going on here, Anna. You've got a circular argument going here. So there's
I have what? Sorry?
Circular argument going on. So if I start at this point, it doesn't work. But if I start at the other point, it doesn't work. So it's not going to work. You'll keep saying it's not working. So there's some reason why you're stuck, and you need the coach to help you identify why you're stuck. Because you're procrastinating.
I have a lot of work. I have too many things that I'm doing. I'm always cleaning my calendar of things, but I can't cut everything because it's money that I'm receiving and I need to pay the bills. So it's like I don't have the time that I would like to have for my business. So I need to go slowly.
Well, that's fine, as long as you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Hence, I'm getting from you at the moment is that you're going around in circles. So I would say you need to have a really good coaching session with a really good coach. And I know they're a bit like hen's teeth, like good therapists out there. You have to find the right one. Be really clear about what you want from your coach. Then you should gain
Mhm.
enough clarity to actually set you off down the road. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to traverse that road, as long as you're going down it. The sense I'm getting from you is that you're stuck. You're not actually moving forward.
In a way, I am moving because I'm creating things. I'm not stopping. I'm just slow doing things, you know. Because, for example, I'm creating the course for the MS Center. I have a deadline, right? I'm working for the volunteer center. I have deadlines. I also have a plan. And I use Trello. I don't know if anyone knows Trello. It's really good. I have the plans, and it's every single week I'm moving 1 or 2 cards of what I have to do. So I'm moving forward, but I also need help. But it's like, is the help adequate to my rhythm? You know,
That's why you need to research your coach, and that's why when I was talking about packages earlier, the package I've settled on is 1 session, because actually most people need clarity, and we can normally get that in 1 session. And if you weren't clear by the end of the two hours, then I would, you know, if we needed 3, it would go for 3. But normally you can get the clarity in 1 session. And that's what I offer you, the clarity. If you then decided you wanted to work with me because you had a particular thing that you wanted to do and you wanted to see me every week for 6 weeks, I don't have a package for that, but I would talk to you about whether you needed that. I have no in all honesty, I have no real interest in doing lots of one-on-one work, because my goal and my purpose is to have this, but I also want to go traveling. So when I'm traveling next year, I don't want to be in my van on Zoom all day. I want to be traveling, which is why I'm looking towards to go down the self-study course route. But
yes.
you need to find a coach that will allow you to go at your pace and set the objectives around you. If they're offering a formula, that's fine, but you need to also make sure that that formula works for you, and you need to have that upfront conversation with your coach and say, I want to cover everything you've covered, but it's a 6-week program and that's going to be too quick for me. I need it to run over 12 weeks. Can we stretch the sessions out? Or whatever it might be, and get really clear. That's why you need that clarity. And step number 1 on the roadmap is clarity. You have to be clear about everything to do with your business, what you want, how you want it, what you need from your support, what you want from your business, how much money you want to make, what your packages are, who your clients are, what problems that you're solving, all that stuff. If you don't get that, it makes it really hard to do anything else, because you get on your social media page and you just think, what do I post today? No idea.
Yes, true.
So it just makes everything else so much harder than it needs to be. And it's an unpopular answer often, because people want quick fixes. People want to know, what should I put on my social media page? Well, I can't tell you that without doing the work. Yeah. And it's a bit like the work that you do. You know, you can't quit smoking without putting in some hard work. You know, you can't solve trauma without putting in some hard work. And it's the same with your marketing. You can't do anything. There isn't a quick fix. You've got to get that clarity sorted at the beginning. You've got to find a coach that's going to help you do that.
Thank you.
No problem.
It was quite a relief, actually, Anna, for you to say, I know I can't do it this fast. There's so many people, and they haven't even thought about that. So you're already further ahead in your self-coaching to know that that's what you need. A lot of people
because we all have different rhythms. So I saw someone saying that 1 week was about clarity, the other week was about creating a website, the other week was about social media. How do you create a website in 1 week? You know, it's a work in progress. It's always something. I'm working on a website every single week. You know, it's like, how am I going to create this? Oh, you go to Wix. Yeah, but
some of it is about how they make their money, and they'll make their money by offering you a 10-week course and then buggering off. So that's what you've got to look out for, because there's a ton of people out there do that. And I did a course recently, which wasn't coaching on your business, it was something else. But there was an input every week, and I had not had time to digest and process what had gone on the week before. I did write a lot of stuff, and I did journal a lot of stuff. but I feel that I won't retain and I won't remember a lot of the stuff that was taught me. And part of the reason for that was it was single dimension. So there was only one teaching method, which was online listening to this person talk. There were no written materials. She never wrote anything up. She never asked us to read anything or watch anything. It was just that one modality. And that's not my best learning medium.
Yes.
It also depends whether you're kinesthetic or you just like reading things or you like listening to things. You need a variety of methods of presentation and absorption
Yes.
to learn properly. And most coaches are not teacher trained.
Yes.
They won't understand the texture that needs to be given with people's learning styles either.
They may not know how to match their teaching style to your learning style either, because there's about 6 different learning styles and less teaching styles than there are learning styles. So it's about finding something that matches and putting that together as well. And that takes time to discover between the two of you. That's not something you just know.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's so interesting because, as I said, you know, I decided to launch this business in March, and I had my intention to launch my course in January. And all the things you've just said are exactly the reason that I've decided not to launch my course in January, because it's my concept. When I first sat down and thought about it, I was like, week 1 we'll do clarity, week 2 we'll do the audience, week 3 we'll do the website. And when I started to actually really think about it, and this is why step 2 on the roadmap is so important, when I really started to think about my audience and what you need, that's not what you need. And that's not, it's not actually not going to help you. I'm sure I could sell the course. I'm quite sure I could sell the course, but I'll have a lot of dissatisfied customers, and I don't want dissatisfied customers. So I haven't created that course. I've started where I can help people, and I can help people with my free resources, and I can help people by showing them the roadmap, and I can help them with a strategy session while I work on that product, because that product needs to be right. And when I really thought about it, it wasn't right. And there's so many people out there offering that already. Why bother adding another thing like that to the marketplace?
Yeah. One of the things that I'm creating on my course is precisely that, because some people not like to write, some people like to read, some people like video, and other people just like audio. So it's like creating a book too. Are you adding pictures? Are you just writing? Are you selling an audio book? Things like that. Are you creating a show from your book? A course is precisely like that. And it's hard work. It takes time. And my rhythm, it's like, it takes time.
Yeah. You're a polymath, aren't you, Anna? You're a polymath, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be forever. It takes time. You'll you know, I'm assuming that you might go through the flow in a similar way to I do as well as a polymath, and I meet a lot in the therapist network. But for me, that process, that rhythm is never ending. So there's always something like there'll be something that I started and was passionate about and it falls away. There's something I started and passionate about and it stays. And then there's other things that pop up and I have new ideas and new things I want to do. And then I'll try and think about how I'm going to fit those in. Something else has to go.
Yeah.
So I've constantly got like a mental back burner. And one of the things that I've done a lot of work on in the last sort of, you know, I'd say the last 10 years is coming to terms with the fact that learning that I am a polymath and what that means and you know how I deal with that, and coming to terms with the fact that some things I won't finish, and that's okay. Because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to conform to you know, when I first was going to do my business, it's spin my plates now, but what it was going to be and originally was niche nemesis, because I was really pissed off with everyone telling me I had to do just one thing in my life. Like, when you're a kid, what are you going to do when you grow up? You're only allowed one answer, right? And but I want to do several things, and why can't I? And then, you know, it was much later down the line that I discovered that that is a thing and people do that and it's needed and it's okay.
Yes, it is.
I work on coming to terms with that.
It is. It is, and it's accepting that you have your own your own quirkiness, and it's like, okay, where do I pick? I choose this, I choose that, I choose that, but what do I like to do more? You know, it's about that. For example, like I was saying before, do I create one course, several small courses, because I know that creating one course, it will be a never-ending finished course, because every time that I learn something, I will add a lesson to the course. So it's like, oh, my first clients didn't have so much information. The last ones, I have more information. And how much is information is too much? You know, I know that people love a lot of information, but it will overwhelm them. Okay, so when should I stop? When should I, you know, it's
One of the things
it's like,
one of the things that I thought about doing with my spiritual development course was making it modular and saying to people that they can buy as many of the modules as they like.
yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good
They
idea.
don't have to follow the whole thing. It's logical to start at the beginning and work through to the end, but they don't have to. If they want to dip in at module 6, they can.
Mm-hmm.
And then they might dance about and do some of the other stuff anyway. It's not a problem.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'll give that to you for nothing, Anna.
It's interesting. That's what I'm thinking about doing with my course.
Okay, interesting.
Selling steps 1 to 5 as a thing, because and then 7, 8, 9, etc. as individual modules. So you can purchase them when you're ready, or you can purchase them as a bundle, whatever. Yeah, because for me, like I was saying in my presentation, you know, social media, networking, offline marketing, you might not need to do all of those. Steps 1 to 5 is sort of non-negotiable, really.
Yeah.
The rest of it is all pick and choose based on your objectives. So yeah, it's interesting that we've had a similar thought.
We've all had the same brain fart. Take care.
Yes, really good. I had someone asking me to do a course like that with modules and to sell them in a way that people will choose the ones. And I totally forgot that.
And it makes more sense as well, because there's nothing worse than paying for a course, especially if you're paying good money and it's not a little cheapy thing. If you're paying for a course and like a chunk of it you already bloody know.
Or you're bored, or you find you're bored, or you don't respond to the teacher's approach. I bought a course recently and I did the first, it was 4 weeks running. I did the first one and I didn't go back because I couldn't respond to the teacher's way of teaching and delivery and everything else. And I thought, can't do this. I'm bored out of my brain. So I didn't go back. So I wasted my money. So wouldn't it be great if you can just give the people the opportunity to dip in and taste you and see if they like it? If they like it, they'll come back. Then you really know you've got the people there you want there. And they want to learn and they're interested and they understand. That's the joy, surely, of any kind of adult education, is it's not crammed down your throat. What I hated at school was, you have to do this. You're going to be stupid your whole life if you don't learn the dates. Fred Bloggs died and Queen Elizabeth came to the throne.
And you have to do it at home and I want it tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's making learning fun, and as it should be, and teaching autonomy.
As a polymath, my brain is like spinning.
I know.
Familiar with that syndrome?
New ideas now, haven't you, Anna?
I've never heard the term polymath, but I think I'm probably one too.
Yeah, there's many ways of describing it, and it's not, the irony is not lost on us as a community of that we can't even settle on a name for it. But the most famous polymath in the world is Leonardo da Vinci. Obviously, he's a polymath and a genius. Not all polymaths are geniuses, but it's somebody who has this like thirst for learning, this like and can keep it, so like an encyclopedic knowledge, someone who has a broad overview, that's never followed a straight career path. They'll do something really intensively for a while and get really good knowledge for it. Have you ever heard the term jack of trades? Yeah, that it's always been a derogatory term, but actually it's jack of most trades, master of some, rather than master of none, because that you can actually become really quite proficient at many different seemingly uncorrelated subjects. But what that gives you is a really good ability to be able to synthesize ideas that specialist people can't think outside of the box to get. And so you're able to go, well, I learnt this thing when I was learning the flute, but the method I was taught would work here for this surgeon that wants to do something, and I can bring those ideas together, and they would never have made that connection. And that's why polymaths or multi-potentialites or whatever we want to be called are really, really important in the world. We're the nurses to the surgeons. We know where all the shit is and how to find it and how to bring it together. And I don't want a polymath doing brain surgery on me, but I want him to have a big team of nurses around him, you know, assuming it's a him. Sorry.
It's like a Swiss knife. It's like a Swiss knife that you have like all the different screwdrivers and cutting and scissors and everything. So
it's like being a mind map, but as a person.
Yeah, I suffered off that a lot.
That 42 V's, that's what I want. That's tool on there, because you're always going to want one of them.
Polymaths find it really difficult to find an ideal client and to settle on what they want on their website, because we want it all.
Yes.
When we have all of them. And there's a really good book I can recommend, actually. I don't know if I've got it on me because I think I've lent it. But if you think you are a polymath, you need to get a book by Emily Wapnick, and it's called How to Be Everything.
Oh my God, not at all older then, at all.
It's more about letting yourself think about it.
Yeah, overcoming the prejudice. And I think, I mean, society has changed in the last 20 or 30 years, but it used to be that you settled on your career and you did do that for your whole life. We don't have that choice in quite the same way anymore, because the whole world of work has changed so much. But it definitely was an expectation when I left school that I would be a thing and always be a thing.
Yeah,
I left school actually being nothing, because I didn't know what the short 4-letter word. So there we are. I'm going to have to go, ladies, because I've got a client shortly, so I need to get my head in the right frame. So thank you, Karen. It was lovely talk, really interesting. Come and do it again.
Thank you. Yeah, I will, whenever you want me.
It's not December. Yeah, absolutely, because therapists need you. They need what you're offering.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
And I'll see you all soon. Take
Bye,
care.
Linda.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. Merry Christmas. Oh.
I just realised we're still recording, so I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah.